we're ready.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting of the Technical and Citizen Advisory Committee to order. And if you would, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I hope everybody had a good holiday, a few days off. We're going to start today's meeting with public comment. I don't believe we have any public comment this morning. Next is the Executive Director's Report. Good morning, Georgiana.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. It's great to see everyone. I hope that you had a great 4th of July. A couple items I wanted to bring to your attention. The Governing Board approved all the action items that from the Governing Board meeting on May 16th, 2024, and you do have the draft meeting minutes in your package. You also have the attendance record as well. Something new in your agenda package on page 12, Chuck, our DOT liaison, he did such a great job working with the DOT Brevard operations to develop a very detailed report of projects that are under construction by the Florida DOT. And so we wanted to develop a little flyer or an update on our planning efforts that we are undertaking here at the TPO. So on page 12 is that little update. And it's really regarding very specific studies or master plans that we have underway. So feel free, if you see, a meeting that is coming up and you want to be a part of that study, feel free to, attend as one of our Citizens or Technical Advisory Committee meetings. But if you have any questions about any of those projects, feel free to reach out to the project manager at the TPO. And thank you very much, Sarah, for creating this little flyer. I think it's very handy. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, Sarah, if you could go to the next slide, Dangerous by Design report. Smart Growth America recently released its 2024 Dangerous by Design report. And it outlines the gaps in safeguarding vulnerable road users. And it lists the most dangerous metropolitan areas for pedestrians in the nation. So this is something that comes out occasionally, and we pay very close attention to it. The report finds that 7,522 people across the country, which is more than 20 a day, were struck and killed while walking in 2022. So Shelby took a very deep dive into these findings. And, she came up with several points here. The Palm Bay, Melbourne, Titusville metro area is one of only 2 areas that saw a decrease in their percentage of pedestrian deaths. And this is per 100,000 people. And this is due to one less fatality in the report period. So 106 people died between 2018 and 2022. Compared to 107 people dying between 2013 and 2017. So despite the decrease, the Palm Bay, Melbourne, Titusville metro area moved to from number 12 to number 11. So we went up a notch. So Florida has a total of 8 metropolitan areas out of the 20, which doesn't look good for Florida as usual. So within these 101 largest metropolitan areas, 66% of all traffic deaths occur on state roads. And, most likely that is related to speed. You can drive faster, typically on state roads. So the rate of death increases as the income decreases, which is something that we already knew. So Abby sent out a newsletter and a press release on June 17th with all of this information. There's a link to the complete report. But, we just wanted to bring this to your attention. And clearly, we have more work to do in our effort, in our mission to improve safety here in Brevard County. So, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thanks, Georgiana. You're absolutely right. We all can do a better job as it relates to that. Okay, next up is our consent agenda. We have 2 items today. The first one is the TAC-CAC meeting minutes from May 6th, 2024. Then work order 25-15K, 2024 through 2025, traffic data report and analysis. And I would look for a motion from the TAC. Motion from Steve. We have a second. Second from Devin. Over to you, Phil.
And from the CAC, can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion from Greg. We have a second, please. And second from Eric. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
From the TAC, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the consent agenda passes unanimously. Action items. We have 3 action items today. First one is Resolution 25-01, fiscal year 25 through 29, the Transportation Improvement Program.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. The next 2 items are mine. They're going to be very quick presentations, but this is our annual adoption of our new Transportation Improvement Program. So what is the TIP? I know that we do have a few new members and members that have only been here for a couple of meetings. But the TIP is a federally required document that lists specific projects by phase. It shows a specific schedule and the anticipated costs over the next 5 fiscal years. So we are talking about July 24-25 to fiscal year 28-29. So that is our new Transportation Improvement Program. And the TIP is a very important document in that it brings our vision to life. Our vision is to provide a safe, multimodal, innovative, and resilient transportation system for all. And the projects that we have funded in the TIP is supposed to deliver on that. And for the new members, I just want to add a little context, to the process. The TIP really puts the long-range transportation plan into action. The long-range plan is a 25-year plan, which, by the way, is currently being developed. It's a very broad and visionary document. It is the cornerstone of our transportation investments. And from there, projects that are in the long-range plan, if they are considered cost feasible, they're added to our list of project priorities. So you see the bridge that then, as projects get funded, they appear in the Transportation Improvement Program. And then you see the FDOT work program. The TIP is really a snapshot of the DOT work program. The TIP is the TPO's document. If I would definitely encourage you all to take a look at it, kind of delve into that document. It has performance measures and a lot of information. It's a very large document, which is the reason why we didn't print them all out for you, and we just provided a link in the package. Public involvement, I just want to say, is deeply embedded throughout this process. It's so important to what we do. And this is just an overview of the TIP development process. It really is a year-long process. It begins with the adoption of our list of priority projects, which was last July. The DOT evaluates the available funds and costs throughout the summer and the fall. The DOT presents the tentative work program usually in December of last year. 2023 is when they presented the work program and discussed any new projects that got added. And the TPO draft review has been under a 30-day public comment period from May until this Thursday when the TPO Governing Board adopts it. We had a big public meeting, open house, on June 12th here. And it was a very good meeting, very well attended. We had a lot of really good questions from our citizens. And today we are asking, of course, for the TIP adoption. So what are you approving? So there's 93 projects. There were a few projects, I know Mr. Fuscus brought to my attention that the numbers were a little off. There's $1.2 billion roughly in the TIP. There were a few projects such as Brevard Operations, the DOT Brevard Operations Center that was in our TIP, work being done on Brevard Ops. I feel that even though that's important for the department, that's not really a project. It's not one of our transportation projects, let me just put it that way. So there were a few things I did not include, but roughly $1.2 billion. And this is real money on real projects that will improve our quality of life, economic development, and safety here in Brevard County. And last slide, this is just a graph of the different categories in the TIP, and in some cases, the different modes. We have an intermodal rail section now with the funding from at least the $15.5 million from the TPO for our new COCO Brightline multimodal station. There's planning, we have space, port, aviation, transit, our technology section, complete streets, sidewalks, trails, maintenance, highway capacity, bridge replacement, a lot of excellent projects, a lot of money coming into Brevard County to come up with the $1.2 billion. Bless you. And so what we are asking for is a motion to adopt our fiscal year 25 through fiscal year 29 Transportation Improvement Program.
Thank you, Georgiana. I'd look for any discussion on the Transportation Improvement Program. If not, I would look for a motion from the TAC for adoption of this resolution.
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Christy. Motion from Christy. Can I have a second, please? Second from Jason. Over to you, Phil.
And from the CAC, can I get a motion, please?
Adam Kohler?
Motion from
Yes.
Adam. We have a second. Second from Peter Fuskis. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
And from the TAC, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes. Okay, next up is Resolution 25-02, fiscal year 24 through 28, the Transportation Improvement Plan Amendment.
All right, so this is a housekeeping item. Of course, there are times throughout the year we have to update our current transportation improvement program. Things change. The DOT work program is very fluid. It changes daily, but if a amendment is triggered, by several things, and it could be a cost increase, a scope change, then it will come to us and we need to amend our current transportation improvement program. So this should be our last amendment for our currently active TIP, and this is for fiscal year 24 through fiscal year 28, which will remain in effect until the federal fiscal year, which will be in October or September 30th. This is our 5-year federal and state transportation funding here in Brevard County. This is amendment number 3, and this amendment is being triggered by cost increases to the construction phase. So the first project is basically this project plans to resurface US 1 from Myers Drive to Crane Creek Bridge. This is in Melbourne and Palm Bay. It was also included part of a streetscape project for the city of Melbourne from W.H. Jackson to Crane Creek. And this proposes pedestrian improvements, raised medians, directional median improvements. Design is ongoing. And the city's US 1 streetscape project was a standalone project. So what happened here is that the DOT had a resurfacing project, and it made a lot more sense that the streetscape project be merged together with the resurfacing project. It was happening within the same fiscal year, and so it makes more sense that would happen. So that is what this project is. Construction funds, $8.8 million, fiscal year 2025. And then the next project is I-95 northbound from Malabar Road to north of Fisk. roughly around 24 miles. This is a repaving from south of Malabar to Fisk, and it's safety improvements such as wider shoulders, traffic signal enhancements at some of the interchanges, guardrail improvements are also planned. And so we are asking for approval of the 24 through 28 TIP amendment.
Thank you, Georgiana. Any questions or discussion on the TIP amendment?
Yeah, Greg.
Yep.
Yeah, Georgiana, just to give us a handle on what's going on, are we seeing a decrease in this inflation or cost increase on these projects, or are they still going through the roof?
When Kathy Alexander with the DOT Work Program was here at the last meeting, and she gave us a very detailed presentation, and it appears as if the department is seeing some stabilization within, the construction industry, but they also are struggling, with supply chain issues, construction, workers. So it is starting to stabilize, but it's still more money. And it is affecting the projects that they're able to deliver.
Thank you.
Yes, Christy.
Why would, on the description, your description for I-95 repaving, makes sense, but why the heck would they put concrete joint north? I mean, what's the significance of going to the concrete joint versus saying 300 feet north or whatever they might do?
So in the tip, they specifically say from the concrete joint north of Malabar Road or north of Fisk. That is a description from the DOT. I don't know that I can answer that question, Christy.
I think I can help out. They did a portion of that road in concrete, and so there's a joint between the asphalt and the concrete.
Correct.
Yeah, north of Fisk.
And it wouldn't be a repaving. And while I'm talking about money, it's $4 million a mile, and that's up at least 10 times from what it was 20 years ago. So, the cost of even a simple mill and repave is really, really accelerating. And like I always say, we're going to see a lot less road building because it's just no longer affordable.
And correct. And as you can see, the construction funds on that I-95 project is over $111 million.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of money.
For 25 miles.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Okay.
Adam, District 1.
Would there be any advantage to breaking that into two parts so that we're not dealing with a fund amount of 111, almost 112 million? I've got a question coming up on the next item, and it'll be related. Just a thought.
The I-95 southbound section is a goes with, so this will be happening in tandem, northbound and southbound. So the department has the money. It's in the DOT work program, so I think they want to try and get as much done as they can.
Mute point, never mind. Disregard.
Okay, from the TAC, I'd look for a motion for approval.
So moved.
Motion by Devin. Could I have a second? Second by Robert. Over to you, Phil.
And from the CAC, motion from Ginger and second from Peter. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye, all opposed?
From the TAC, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes. Next is fiscal year 2025 list of project priorities.
All right. Good morning, Sarah Crom, Senior Transportation Planner. I presented a very detailed presentation on the list of project priorities at our last meeting on May 6th, as well as also to the Governing Board May 16th. There has been no changes to the list of project priorities since that presentation. but I'm just going to give a brief overview of what our list of project priorities is and what changed, just as a friendly reminder. We did present, or we opened it up for public comment at our open house for that 30 days on June 12th, as well as also our BPAC met on June 24th and reviewed the list of project priorities and made a recommendation for approval. So, what is the list of project priorities? It's ultimately where the planning meets the money. So this is a prioritized list of all of the multimodal projects that we need in order to advance the TPO's mission, vision, and as well as also our transportation system of tomorrow. It communicates to FDOT what projects we're looking to fund and what the funding we need is, as well as also this is how FDOT programs our projects, as well as how Georgiana mentioned, this is what bridges our long-range vision of our LRTP into the actual funded projects of the Transportation Improvement Program. When we're thinking about our list of project priorities, we need to think interregionally. So from MICO to MEMS, projects that are on the list of project priorities should add value not only to your communities, but to our transportation region. So how do we develop our list of project priorities? Well, we develop it through a ranking process with both quantitative scorings, that's 0 to 100, based on a very specified criteria, as well as also discretionary ranking can be established. Discretionary ranking is essentially our committees, so TAC, CAC, BPAC, and our governing board can make a recommendation for a project to be moved. So you could say, I would like project A to be, or project D to be moved to project A, etc. Ultimately, our governing board has the authority on the ranking of our projects. The criteria of our projects is based around 5 emphasis areas that align to our governing board strategic plan. So we have safety, transportation land use, sustainability and resiliency, innovation, and multimodal. So what's new this year? We did have some changes within the list, and that was basically based on estimates being updated, phase updates. Some of the scores were minorly tweaked due to changes in volume or changes in where they fell on the Vision Zero Height Injury Network. These are just small fluctuations that happen through monitoring the system through the State of the System report. We also, we moved the intermodal station from the planning section up into the regionally significant, as well as also we clarified on the CIS list that the 95 interchange is specifically we were pursuing the I-95 Malabar interchange. We did have 2 new projects added. They were both grant funded and thus they are unranked projects, but they were the Emerson Road Safe Streets for All project. This was amended. Our list of project priorities, our fiscal year 2024 list of project priorities was amended back in May to include both these grant-funded projects. So really, they're not traditionally new projects, but they're the Emerson Road Safe Streets for All project. That application has already been submitted. And then the Railroad Crossing Elimination Program, which is pursuing railroad crossing safety improvements, not elimination of crossings, but improvements to the crossings, and that grant is underway. So what happens with our list of project priorities? So it goes through a various process. We just went through basically this green section, which is our call for projects. Municipalities have the opportunity to submit applications. We evaluate and rank those applications, and then this is where we are at now, where we're going for adoption of our list of project priorities. Following adoption on Thursday, we will then submit it to FDOT. FDOT will review any new applications. We had none this year. We'll go through vetting and any kind of meetings with the locals that need to happen prior to programming. We will then go into project programming where we coordinate with FDOT very closely. We develop a funding table for our specific funds and review the list of project priorities with FDOT in great detail. They then go into work program development where they take our list of project priorities and they attempt to program as much as possible to advance projects. And then finally, projects are either administered through the local agency program or FDOT administers them. So in your agenda package, you do have the draft list of project priorities. As I said, there has been no changes since the May meeting, as well as also the maps. Once again, no changes. And so with that, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the fiscal year 25 list of project priorities.
I have a question.
Thank you, Sarah. Any discussion or questions?
Yeah, thank you. Sarah, I noticed that 3 and 4 are basically on the same highway.
The State Road 528.
Yeah, on the first section there. Is there a particular reason why that was broken into 2 parts?
I can't recall, Georgiana. Could you help me?
When the department was conducting the design phase, they had it really split in 2 sections. They were designing the full section, basically from industry all the way to 401 at the port, but they had separated it in 2 sections and even funded it a little separately. I'm not sure that I remember the reasoning behind that, but perhaps the thoughts were, if only one section could move forward, in a construction phase, that would give them the ability to have, 2 separate design segments from the very beginning. And that may very well be what happens in the future, is that the section closest to the port may move forward first, especially with the interaction of the 401 bridge replacement, which is, needed immediately, just to go ahead and get something moving, instead of doing the whole section, which is hundreds of millions of dollars.
Where I'm going with this, in case you were wondering, is I like the idea of it being in 2 parts, because I'd rather have half the thing done than none at all. And oftentimes what happens is we push things, as Pete has often said, down the road, and that's not a good thing. So with that in mind, are there other projects that we might want to consider breaking up into 2 parts as well? And I don't need an answer, just throwing it out so it can be considered in the future if that idea has any merit. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Adam.
Yep, Pete?
Yeah, it broke into 2 parts because the bridge going over the Indian River would add a year or a year and a half to the contract. You don't want to stretch your money out that long. So from Courtney to the port, doesn't have that time constraint of the bridge. So they break it up into 2 parts just because of money and interest and scheduling and claims. And, that's usually the reasoning in back of it. One part is slower, one part is quicker. Let's break it up, get quicker done. And that being said, that's just the rule. You break out the slow part and you proceed with the fast part. The rest is good. And I also would like to bring up, I talked to Sarah a little bit before this about the trail that runs up the spine of Brevard County, and that the people of Brevard County would really, really enjoy it. And she tells me there's a roadblock in Brevard County Public Works as far as who would maintain it. Most of that would be along US 1, which is state and state funded, but the state will not build a trail unless somebody signs a maintenance agreement to it. And is Brevard County Public Works really a roadblock in getting something like this started?
Well, a municipality needs to bring a project forward, and at this point, no one has brought the project forward.
So that's the first problem,
Yeah.
is that we need to have an application submitted, and we need to add it to the priority list. And then we go about trying to find the funding. And of course, there's got to be someone to maintain a trail, so.
So we aren't even at square one other than having a line on the map. So what would be the procedure to get the governing board's interest in this?
Well, I wouldn't say we're at square one because we do have 2 projects right now in the works for East Coast Greenway. The city of Titusville is doing their section from State Road 50 to Grace Street, and so that is currently under not quite a design. It's like pre-design because they're having to go through some right-of-way work with that project. And then the city of Cocoa is currently working on their Michigan Avenue project, which will be a trail that will ultimately, hopefully, connect into the East Coast Greenway alignment, where for a portion you can actually get people off of US 1 onto Grissom and more of a safer, less congested roadway with slower speeds. So I wouldn't say we're starting at square one, but basically there does need to be an interest from a maintaining agency to submit an application, as well as also I would recommend that if they want to submit an application for our list of project priorities, they would also submit an application for Sun Trails funding. Now, the next available Sun Trails funding is not until fiscal year 30. So ultimately, even if someone really got excited about trails today, which I would love for them to, you're still looking at 5 years before really like funding would probably come down from the state in order to get that project moving. Now, we're always happy to present on where our trail plans are, or also meet with various entities that are interested.
Okay, well, I see from what you just said, a trail stops at North Cocoa and picks up at South Titusville. There's a big strip of US
There's a
1
chunk.
that's state, that would be state funded. Grissom is not a state road. It might be considered safer, but the way it's being developed nowadays,
But it is
that's not
still,
gonna
you're
last.
still able to hit Sun Trails funding on Grissom because it's on the proper OGT maps.
Well, there's still a trick to get them back to US 1.
Yep, it
Somewhere
needs to
along
be
the line.
studied, yep.
But anyhow, if the trail is going all the way to the north end of Cocoa and all the way to the south end of Cocoa, wouldn't it be time for somebody to talk to the governing board and, see if somebody would initiate application?
I would think that, that if someone's interested in an application, this would definitely be the time.
And it
Yeah.
would take, how would that get initiated on the governing board? One of the members raised her hand? 'Cause we can make that happen.
I'm not sure.
I think when we meet with Brevard County to kind of go over future projects and priorities, why don't we have this conversation with Brevard County staff? And then, probably one of the county commissioners, there's got to be some backing behind it. So
Yeah.
to your point, I think that's a great idea, but I think if we could talk to county staff first, when we sit down with them and talk about the status of county priorities, what they may have coming up in the future, and what we've heard from, our CAC, that this is an area that, folks feel that it needs to be focused on now, considering the funding is so far out.
Exactly, yeah, and I can definitely add that to the agenda. We'll be meeting with not only the county, but some of the other large municipalities to review our LRTP needs list, and so that's perfect timing in August for us to
Yeah.
sit down with them, because also Sun Trail applications generally open in the fall, and so that would be nice timing for us to bring it up to staff.
Well, and if we wait till the last day to ask for the money, it's never there.
Yeah. That's true.
So, the quicker we can get the idea in everybody's head, and if it's going to take a commissioner or representatives, you just let us know, and I'm sure amongst us we can make that happen, especially with elections coming up.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Pete.
Maybe. Okay, any other discussion on the list of project priorities? If not, I would look for a motion for approval from the TAC.
Man, it's like pulling teeth.
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion from Christie and a second from Jason. Thank you. Over to you, Philip.
And from the CAC, can I get a motion, please? Motion from Pete and second from Adam Kohler.
District 1.
Thank you, Adam. All in favor say aye. Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
From the TAC, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Okay, that's it for our action items today. We have a few presentations today. The first one is on Malabar Road, PD&E. Morning.
Morning. All right, can everybody hear me all right? Maybe wake people up. So, I've been told a few times I need to keep this brief. So I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. I got about 10 slides, and then we'll open up for questions at the end. So I'm Travis Hills with Kittleson and Associates, working with the City of Palm Bay on the Malabar Road PD&E study. So the PD&E study is a LAP project, local agency program. It's using federal funds It's being administered, like I said, by the City of Palm Bay and being approved by FDOT. So a little bit of kind of the interagency coordination with this project. So for folks that are not aware of this project or where it's at, we are in the City of Palm Bay, partially Brevard County on that western side. From the St. John's Heritage Parkway to Minton Road to the east, we have 4 signalized intersections along the corridor, as you see on the graphic. So we have Krasner, Bending Branch Lane, Jupiter Boulevard, and then 2 signals on the east side at Minton Road and the shops just to the west of Minton Road. So the purpose and need for the project, for the PD&E study, the purpose is to provide additional capacity improvements and to address current corridor and intersection safety issues. So as you see here, the couple bullets below are the project is needed. Design year traffic exceeds the target capacity. I'll talk about that on the next slide. It's also going to enhance access. So if we go 2 to 4 lanes, enhance access to the St. John's Heritage Parkway out to the west, as I showed in the previous map. And then on the safety side, looking at previous 5 years of crashes, 16 to 2020, we had almost 650 crashes on this 4-mile, 2-lane corridor. There were no fatalities, but we did have about 30%, a little bit over 30% of our crashes were injury related. So about 200 of those 650 crashes. So like I mentioned, future demand exceeds the current capacity of the 2-lane roadway. So our 2020 AADT's annual average daily traffic, basically how much traffic is on the road during the day, ranges from about 7,000 to 16,000 along our corridor. In the future, we're projecting that to almost double. And sorry, I have some timing things in here, but the corridor ADTs, the volumes are projected to double now between now and 2050. So you'll see that being anywhere between 16 and 28,000, far above the capacity for a 2-lane roadway. So when we look at our future operational analysis, this is the no-build. So if you keep the road as 2 lanes today, you'll see a lot of those Fs in red and then some of the Es. That's not an acceptable, what we call level of service. So we want to try to make sure that we're getting those into the D or above D, C, B, A range, and widening the corridor to 4 lanes would do that. So a little bit on what that 4-laning will look like. So this is the preferred alternative typical section. So like I mentioned, we're widening to 4 lanes. We have 2 11-foot lanes in the east and west directions with a 22-foot median. And then we're also widening the sidewalk on the south side to 8 feet. And then we're adding a 10-foot shared use path on the north side of the road directly adjacent to the roadway. So for folks that know this area, there is a shared use path on the north side of the canal that is outside of our roadway itself. So we're going to maintain that shared use path that's on the north side of the canal, but then we're also going to build a 10-foot shared use path adjacent to the roadway as well. So then speaking of the canal, that's really our major pinch point in the project around Jupiter Boulevard. So what you see there is that sidewalk that I had mentioned before on the north side of the canal. We have that shared use path in between the canal and the roadway itself. And then we tighten up the roadway as we get through that canal area. We have a little bit of a lesser median width, but we are still providing that 8-foot sidewalk with those 22-foot, those 2 11-foot lanes in each direction. So then the fun slide, intersection traffic control. So we are proposing 4 roundabouts along the corridor. St. John's Heritage Parkway, looking at a roundabout there. Krasner Drive, Bending Branch Lane, going from a signal that's out there today to a roundabout in the future. Hurley Boulevard would be a new roundabout installation. It's currently an unsignalized intersection. We're going to maintain the signal at Jupiter. We're going to install a signal at Garvey. And then we're also going to do a new roundabout at Maywood and then keep the 2 signals on the east side of the corridor. This helps provide for traffic calming as you widen that road to 4 lanes, as we all know. 4-lane, 4-mile long roadway, very straight, very flat. You will see speeding issues. So having these roundabouts will help that traffic calming along the corridor. So then on the right-of-way side, very quickly, existing right-of-way varies between 66 feet up to a little bit over 100 feet along the corridor. The proposed right-of-way is going to be right around 102 feet, and it will vary as we approach those canal relocation sections. The great part about this is that the city has already done a lot of advanced right-of-way acquisition. So as you see here, the city owns 33 of the 108 affected parcels along the corridor for the widening. And then overall, the right-of-way costs are pretty significantly reduced because of that. We're at about $2.4 million for the right-of-way estimate as it stands now. And then the second big fun slide is the money slide. So total construction costs were around $110 million. That was updated late last year, so it's about as current as you can be. Utility relocation costs are about $10 million. We have wetland mitigation, the right-of-way costs that I mentioned. We have design locked in at $10 million. And then we have a CEI, construction, engineering, and inspection, that happens during the construction phase at around $16.5 million. Total right-of-way or total project cost a little bit under $150 million for the 4-lane widening. So that's the end. Like I said, my name is Travis Hills. Jack Freeman, the project manager, is also here. And then we're working very closely with Frank. Apologize as well, I'm also getting over a cold, so that's why I may sound a little raspy. So we will take any questions.
Thanks, Travis. Questions for Travis?
Quick question, did I miss it? What's the length of this improvement?
It's about 4 miles.
Thank you.
Pete?
Yeah, Travis, I heard you mention 66 feet of right-of-way.
Yep.
That's available right now? Is that where you're going to buy more to
Correct.
widen it?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yeah, Ginger.
Yeah, my question is, why did you make the assumption that traffic is going to double? What led you to that assumption?
It wasn't an assumption, it was our traffic forecasting. So when we looked at future growth rates along the corridor and in the area, if anybody's been out there recently with all the new developments, the apartment complexes and houses that are being built, that was really kind of how our traffic forecasting shook out. Was we were looking at about, and I said roughly double between now. So you're going 7,000 to 16, 11 to 21, and 16 to 28. So not quite double along the whole corridor, but pretty close to that over the next 30
So you
years.
did existing and then like a 2% growth every year, or what did you do?
I would have to get back to you on the specific growth rates that we used, but.
Yeah, Travis, I've got a question. How are you going to provide access to that canal? Not for the general public.
Yeah, for St. John's, or for Melbourne
Well,
Tillman.
for Melbourne Tillman, which I
Yeah,
happen to
so-
be president of that board of directors, so that's why I'm interested in that.
Yeah, so we've been coordinating with Mike McCabe regularly
know.
throughout the project. So we're maintaining all the existing access points to the canal for the maintenance equipment. And then we've also, Mike coordinated with us on the vehicle or the boat that's needed to go in the canal and do the maintenance. And so we've been coordinating on all that.
Yeah, and bring their equipment to our right of way to maintain the canal is that's why those roundabouts are a concern.
Okay. I don't remember
I'm sure Mike
hearing-
has talked to you about that.
I don't remember hearing any concerns from Mike about the roundabouts and the access to the canal, so.
On the roundabout, however, we are relocating the canal to the north. My name is Jack Freeman. I'm the project manager.
Yep, he needs a mic.
Okay, I'm Jack Freeman with Kittleson. I am the project manager, but we are relocating the canal to the north in the vicinity of the post office. So we cannot take post office property, so we're having to shift to the north in that and through the Jupiter intersection. So through there, we are maintaining for the, and actually raising the bridge over the C10 canal to be able to get your weed harvesting equipment underneath that bridge, better. I think we're raising it about 3 feet. It's all been coordinated with Mike. So, the roundabouts, yes, they do, but in most cases, we are looking at how we shift the actual circulating roadway a little bit to the south, so, and, be able to minimize the effect on the canal. So through that area and, in coordinating with Mike, no problems there. We are upgrading also a number of your cross drives across there and the cross drain that goes underneath those driveways into, subdivisions we are doing quite a bit of that with the project.
Okay, thank you, Jack.
I got Ginger and I saw Pete as well.
Ginger?
I was curious about the projected speed limit on that road once these modifications are put in.
So we're doing 45 posted and design.
And is there, from what I'm seeing, there's no projections of any type of on-road facility for cyclists?
That is correct.
Not happy. Like your roundabouts. Any reason why that's been omitted? Any shoulders or anything for emergency pullover, cyclist?
Well, so I know that you're an on-road
Yes, I know.
cyclist, and so I know to speak to my audience. The average, I would say, or the non-road cyclist rider is not going to be comfortable on a 45-mile-per-hour straight road with speeds that are probably going to go above that. And so the FDM provides us flexibility to basically kind of take those bicycle facilities off the roadway once those posted speed limits are a little bit higher and put them into shared use paths on the side of the road where it's a more comfortable riding experience for the not so experienced bicycle riders. So,
And are you considering that electric bikes are going to be on those shared use paths too?
I would say that's probably a reasonable assumption.
Illegal ones that go 45 miles an hour?
I know there's all different types of classes of electrical bicycles.
There's 3 classes, the max speed's 28, but there are many people out there that do have illegal vehicles and they're not being monitored by law enforcement, and they have the capacity going 45 miles an hour.
Go ahead, Georgina.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to just kind of remind everyone, this project Malabar Road is not a state road. It is a city, and there's a small portion of it that belongs to the county. Not that there's any state funding to put on it to begin with, because we can't, we're not getting any funding these days for our state roads, but it poses another challenge. Because we're going to have to find federal funding for it, or, TRIP or SIGP funding with a 50% match. So funding the construction is extremely important, and we are going to have to look for some innovative ways to fund this. I mean, even applying for a RAISE grant, this amount far exceeds the cap that we could get for a RAISE grant, but the roundabouts would definitely open up opportunities in this particular infrastructure bill. So, splitting the project or doing sections of it first, to your point, Adam, I think we're going to have to look at all options, but I want to commend the city of Palm Bay. They've been aggressively purchasing the right-of-way. I mean, for this major widening project to only now need $2 million in right-of-way is really unheard of. And so they have been very proactive, and, even my predecessor, Bob Comm, from the very beginning, I mean, if it's off the state highway system and you can somehow start purchasing the right-of-way, it's going to make it so much easier in the end. So I'm very appreciative of that, but we have to figure out how to fund construction.
Adam Cola, District 1. I love roundabouts. I know there's a lot of people around here that don't like them, but I've got a concern. Why are there 4? It seems like 2 of them are awful close together. Can you explain the reasoning for that? Hurley's right next to the one just a short distance away.
I guess is your question why there are 4 or why are there 2 that are
close together? 2 close together.
I think those are probably a half to 3/4 of a mile apart. So I don't know if I would say that they're close together. They don't let the map. I guess the 2 signals on the east side are close together. So just for kind of scale, those 2 signals are, I think, less than 750 feet apart. So, yeah, it's not.
Chair, just to help answer that question, again, Frank Watanabe from the City of Palm Bay, and thank you for trying to answer that question. Most of these streets are already major intersection points. What we're doing is meeting the requirements as they become warranted for signals. We're going to put signals or roundabouts. The two locations that he did mention, one's called Plaza, it's a shopping center entrance, is right next to Minton, and those two signals are in coordination.
Right.
So even though they're close together, the two signals are in coordination. And we're going to improve the entire corridor too, which is not part of this project. We're going to rope it in. TPO has been gracious with the FDOT to do an ITS for this corridor, and we're going to mirror in ITS components with this PD&E study. So this corridor will be a future ITS corridor. FDOT has already designed the system for us, and so we're now hoping in the future to go after the construction phase for ITS for the Malabar corridor. So all these signals and roundabouts will eventually be tied to an ITS system.
Okay, I don't want to dwell on it, but I have another question. I like the idea of having the bicycle paths off the main road. Can you tell me how much that added to the cost of the project by not making it part of the roadway?
I do not have those numbers off the top of my head.
Good question to ask, I'm sure. There will probably be some compromises down the road because of the amount. Only reason for bringing it up.
Hey, and maybe just to answer your question, we early on discussed this idea, and in the City of Palm Bay, we don't have too many sidewalks, so we can try to encourage as many sidewalks separate from the roadway. We've had issues, as mentioned, regarding our major straight roads. In Palm Bay, we have a lot of straight roads. A lot more asphalt does make sense in our city. All it does is create more issues from our law enforcement. It makes issues regarding our drainage system. We're a GDC-developed city, so all we have is paved swells. I mean, we have swell systems, so when we add more impervious asphalt, all we're doing is looking for more ponds and more swells to create another problem. So we like this idea of trying to keep the road as narrow and try to keep the pavement as least asphalt as possible and promote other types of co-chair uses like these separate shared facilities. And remember, we're keeping the existing sidewalk on the other side of the trail too. So we're providing a dual system for a pedestrian and bicycles and other uses to use that corridor. So we're trying to make sure we provide all the amenities for everybody along this corridor because it is a major corridor. It goes from I-95 all the way out to the St. John's Heritage Parkway, which we hope to, in the near future, extend that, make that 4 lanes all the way up to 192. And again, this is all city funded with TPO's help.
My point is I'm commending the initiative here because one of the things we've been striving to improve is the accident rate amongst our people and as well as our cars. And this is totally in line with Vision Zero. Hint, hint. Thank you.
Okay.
Pete, I know you've been.
I'm going to rag on them.
Uh-oh.
You still own the landmark building right across from Lake Eola?
Yes.
So, and you can't answer a question about the electric bikes? I mean, you're drowning in them right there. Every corner's got 10 or 15. Put your smartphone on and you jump on the electrical bike and go, right? Or you don't ride them bikes?
I do not.
Now,
I do not.
Now, the second thing, this is planning, right? So, we hear that we got to really widen this road because all this population is coming. Now, where you work is exploded in population. So they're taking a 4-lane road, Robinson, and necking it down to 2 lanes to get some of the traffic the hell out of there. It's blowing my mind, like how this planning works, and I'm gonna leave it at that. Where you are, oh man, we got too many people. We can't have all these cars on the road. But yet here in Brevard County, oh, we got all these people coming. We need 100 miles of asphalt.
Yeah, I mean, I think context plays a big role, right? I mean, you're talking about comparing downtown to Orlando to suburban.
Well, we know where we're going, that's because downtown Orlando is where we're going to eventually end up in Florida, the way we're growing population-wise, and I'm just having fun with you.
I would say Pete always likes to give me a hard time, so.
Oh, it's not a hard time, especially on the e-bike, you got hundreds of them and you can't answer a question. Don't you ever run out of their way when you're going to walk around the lake?
They run me off the road or run me off the sidewalk.
Thank you. Point made. And plus also the incident rate on sidewalks is higher for those recreational riders because of all the driveways, access to commercial properties.
Oh, and these riders are nuts.
Not as visible.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for Travis? All right, thank you, Travis.
Perfect. All right,
Appreciate
thanks,
it.
everybody.
Next up is a presentation, Best Foot Forward program from Bike/Walk Central Florida. Bike Walk Central Florida. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kenzie, and I'm the program coordinator for the Best Foot Forward program. Under Bike Walk Central Florida, we are the largest nonprofit bicycle pedestrian coalition in the country. And our main goal for our program is to minimize pedestrian injury and fatality through driver behavior change. So like we previously discussed, the Dangerous by Design report, our program was founded and established in response to Orlando being the #1 location back in 2009. This is the 2022 report, not the most recent, but as you can see, Palm Bay, Brevard County area is at number 12. Orlando is back up at number 8. The most recent one, I believe Orlando moved down to 18, not because in general we're making better improvements, but because areas like Memphis and other places in Tennessee are becoming worse. So our methodology is based off of a 2013 NHTSA study out of the University of Florida, where they investigated the effectiveness of a cross-disciplinary approach to bringing more awareness to people in the crosswalk. So they took 6 crosswalks combined with high visibility enforcement, education, and low-cost engineering countermeasures, and they found that it worked really well. So we did a little bit of that plus evaluation, which I'll talk about in just a second. So we have primarily been working out of Orange, Osceola, and Seminole County from about 2012 to 2023. In the last year, we were able to expand to Brevard, Volusia, and Marion counties with the help of FDOT in their Target Zero program. Some of our partners, we work with public works departments, law enforcement agencies, school districts, lots of people. The TPOs, we love working with the TPOs. And we hope to continue expanding into Lake and Polk County next fiscal year. So the main chunk of our program is the data that we collect at our crosswalks. We use stage crossing to measure the percentage of drivers yielding to pedestrians. So our data collectors will go out into the field, they'll take photos, document if any signage is damaged, missing, faded crosswalks. And they will set up a safe stopping distance, which is based on the posted speed limit. As you can see, the higher the speed limit, the greater the distance. And this basically tells them where to cross when a car is approaching. They will cross 20 times at 3 different times of the day, and we return every other month for a total of 360 crossings a year, give or take. On a quarterly basis, we work with our law enforcement partners, and we go out to a crosswalk or 2 in their jurisdiction. We will send a decoy walker that usually ends up being one of us or one of the officers in normal clothing, and they'll walk out in front of a car with the safe stopping distance, of course. But they'll walk out in front of a car. If the car fails to yield, they're pulled over and handed a educational citation handout sheet that has information on the Florida driver yield law that states that a car must stop for people in the crosswalk. If you don't, in Orange County, it's $164 and 3 points on your license. It's more expensive in Brevard County. After that, it's up to the officer's discretion if they want to give them a citation or a warning. We don't make that call. So here are some of the numbers from our last enforcement back in May. In Brevard County, we worked with the Sheriff's Office and Indian Harbor Beach Police Department. We had some decent numbers. This was only our second enforcement, so everybody's still trying to get the hang of things in our new crosswalks over here. We worked with 18 law enforcement agencies over the 6 counties at 25 different details. And this is all within a 2-week time period. So 488 warnings and citations is quite a lot just for those 25 details. So every year we work together to create what we call a crosswalk improvement plan, or a CIP. They basically evaluate each of the crosswalks per partner. So partners like Winter Park have 3 crosswalks. Partners like the City of Orlando could have up to like 15. So we include all of them with kind of like an evaluation of what we've observed out in the field during data collection, and any suggestions of potential countermeasures that are low cost. So we like to go for, restriping the paint or super cheap signage. Usually does more than most people would think. And then, of course, we love doing outreach. We love going to schools, HOAs, PTAs, basically anybody who will listen to us go on about our pedestrian safety rant. We also get to hear testimonials firsthand from people who bike and walk every day in the areas that we serve. And it's always good to get that perspective when we're the ones helping make the changes in their community. And we also like to educate people about the Florida driver yield law, because a lot of people don't know that it's the law. They think it's just a suggestion. So it's always good to remind folks that no, it's actually a hefty ticket and 3 points on your license. So this is our progress only in Orange, Osceola, and Seminole counties, not including our recent expansion into those 3 additional counties. Making some great progress, tons of presentations, events, details. Most notable in the top right are that we've seen our lower speed crosswalks that are about 35 miles per hour and under skyrocket from 17% driver yield rate overall to 50%. And then at our high speed ones that we usually see less of an improvement in, we have seen it go from 2% to 47% in about 10 years. And we couldn't have done it without all of our partners. This is just information from the Orlando metro area, but through working with our law enforcement agencies and our engineers in the Public Works Department, we have seen that with an increase in driver yield rate, that the pedestrian injuries and fatalities has kind of leveled off, and it's not as bad as it was when our program first started back in like 2014, 2015, which is very encouraging to see. And I'm Kenzie. If you guys have any questions, I would love to hear them.
Questions for Kenzie?
Eric.
So I have a question just about the signage that you show on one of your slides. Maybe it's back a couple.
Yep.
I'm really curious as to how consistent the first 2 signs are.
The in-street signage?
So the state signage, state law signs.
Yep.
And part B of it is there any place where we have signage or markings on the road itself that people would see driving up, or is it always the case of a sign at these crosswalks? So maybe it's a 2-part question.
Yeah, so one of the first things that we recommend is the state law. We go for the stop for people in the crosswalk. We feel like that gets the message more across and like yield. Usually they're like the ones that you put in the middle of the 2 lanes that it basically makes drivers slow down. Those are usually the first that we go for because they're quicker to get done. It takes our partners more time to get out there with the paint and, go through all that, even though it's still pretty low cost. But we found that one of our crosswalks in Castleberry went from about 15% yield rate to 65% with just the in-street signage posted in the middle. And we heard some complaints about like, oh, well, they get beat up pretty bad, by the drivers, but they're fairly low cost to replace as well. So, and they last pretty long. So even when they're hit consistently, but yep.
And how about markings on the road itself? Has that ever
just like
discussed?
striping or like
Yes,
when
like
they,
yep.
Like so stopping, we usually suggest if it's just like the lines that we do the high emphasis where they kind of outline it. Those also work very well. We find that the signage is much better and faster. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I've been waiting to meet a crosswalk person for years. So nice to meet you. About time. Some observations, like when I'm downtown Orlando in the urban core, the city has crosswalks at almost every major intersection. When I get on the state road like Robinson, they just have crosswalks at the red lights.
Correct.
Well, why is FDOT so cheap with their crosswalks?
That's a good question. I wish I could answer that for you.
No answer to that, huh?
No answer. We're fairly new partners with FDOT, so.
Okay, well, somebody needs to get on them. I've been trying for years, bitching about lack of crosswalks on state roads. And where sometimes I have to walk a half a mile to get to a crosswalk.
Yep.
And the answer I get, every intersection is presumed to be a crosswalk. Well, when I turn on the news, well, they got creamed and they weren't in a crosswalk.
Right.
So painted crosswalks are important. And then I do notice from walking a lot and riding a bike a lot, that if you have a new established crossing, the general public will learn and they'll come to respect it. Like I'm getting a lot more people stopping and giving me the come ahead now than when facilities first opened. But if you're looking down and you're a neon junkie and you're not watching where you go and you walk in front of a car, you get creamed and, oh, we should have did something about it. Well, how do you educate that? People are hooked. And you ask for a cheap alternative, instead of giving me a breathalyzer thing in these upcoming new vehicles, put jammers in all of them that keep people the hell off the cell phones, and I think we'd all be safer.
I think you're onto something.
Yep. Adam, you had something?
Yeah, I'm from New York City, so I have a tendency to walk out into the middle of the street,
Right.
and I trust that people are going to stop. But you must have a hard time finding volunteers to do that.
Yeah, at our enforcement.
Are they volunteers or are they paid?
So usually it's staff. So I was the decoy walker when we did the one down in by Stadium Parkway by like the courthouse, and it was very scary. And even with
What happened to your foot?
yeah, but I got run over. But
I'm going to give you my card and you can call me if you're up in my area. The second question is, what time of day are you folks doing this? Are you doing it only during daylight or are you doing it at night as well?
Yep. So our data collection, we do anytime from like 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. We don't let our data collectors go out at dusk just because it's, more dangerous. During enforcement, we let the law enforcement agencies send us the time that works best for them because they're so busy. But I have never seen an enforcement go past like 4.
Okay. So 488 violations in how long a period of time?
2 weeks.
So we're not talking about 24 hours times 2 weeks. We're talking about less than 12 hours a day.
Correct.
That's a lot.
Yep, and that number is also, it's not just pedestrian related. We had about 300 pedestrian related warnings and citations. Sometimes officers will go out and they'll do the seatbelt, they'll enforce wearing a seatbelt, or if tags are expired when they pull someone over for not yielding. It's up to them whether they want to, bring that into the conversation.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, Vincent.
Just one question. When I'm pushing the button to cross the street, specifically in Vieira, for instance, you push the crosswalk button and there is a white symbol that shows up saying you have the right of way to cross the street. Every time there are always drivers either going through, making a right-hand turn on a red light, right, making a right-hand turn on red, and turning directly into where I'm walking.
Right.
Or if, like for instance, at the Avenue at Vieira, if you're crossing that street from the hotel, going across, there are cars turning right in front of you. Could there be a better way, rather than having the symbol and, of a walker and then a countdown, from 30 to 0, could there be some lights flashing or something to give, drivers the indication that somebody's trying to cross the street now?
Yeah, so we're huge advocates for no right on red, which we found that that's the best solution so far is just preventing drivers turning right on red.
Right.
We worked with the city of Orlando on one of their projects with that, and they found that like 70% of crashes involving pedestrians turning left were because, the blinking yellow lights, or when they're turning right, they're just kind of trying to beat you.
Yeah.
We do a couple enforcements at signalized intersections, not a lot, but we do. And a lot of the times people are like, I didn't know that I'm supposed to wait for you to finish crossing the road, even if I have the green light to go straight, you know?
Right,
But so far, just the no ride on red that we found works really well.
right,
Yeah.
because that's been a real problem, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Ginger?
First of all, I'm happy to see you in Brevard County.
Yes.
I passed through your intersection several times going to commute over to my mother's in Lakeland.
Yep.
So I went to Osceola, so I've been jealous for years. Have you seen any impact on, was it the leading, I'm trying to think of the right word, the LPI lights? Pedestrian?
Yep. We have one LPI in Seminole County, I believe, and we're still in the process of working with them to get it perfect. I think it's on Sausalito. But I'm not super involved in that project.
Okay, I've
So
just seen 'em in
nothing
Polk
in
County.
Brevard so far.
Yeah, I've seen them in Polk County, and I thought they were amazing, especially for senior
I
citizens.
think we only have one so far.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool.
Any other questions or comments for Kenzie? All right. Oh, we've got one.
I just wanted to say Cape Canaveral is partnering with Best Foot Forward. We've had a number of both enforcements. I'll wait for a mic, I'm sorry. I thought I could yell. Cape Canaveral has worked with Best Foot Forward for a number of high visibility enforcements as well as data collection for yield rates and outreach. So we have worked with them on a number of things in our community, and it's been really valuable to kind of have that insight into where our problems lie. We're a small staff. I am the transportation department on top of some of the other hats that I wear for the city. So having this resource where we can collect that information, understand where some of our conflicts might be in our community, and then make it safer and better for everybody has been super invaluable. So this is just me kudosing Bike Walk Central Florida and the Best Foot Forward program.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kenzie, as a vulnerable road user myself, I want to thank you and the
Absolutely.
work of your colleagues. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have one more comment before you say goodbye.
Go for it.
Well, no, that's okay.
No, you're good.
It's not enough people walk or use the facilities, bike and walk. It's like our sidewalks are deserted in the summertime.
Yep.
And it's hard to expect a driver, if they're used to something day after day, day after day, and all of a sudden you see a pedestrian, it's really hard for them to mesh. So I have to stop, look, and listen. I stop, I look both ways, and I listen for traffic, because I know that we have large areas of Florida where the facilities just aren't being used. So that's problem number one.
Right.
You need to educate me, the dumb pedestrian, not to be face buried in a phone,
Right.
and to get some responsibility on myself to stop, look. I don't care what color the light is. You know, I'm going to stop and look. If somebody's barreling 100 miles an hour, and some people do that,
Right.
I'm not going to walk in front of them. And I think your statement, when you walk in front, you take a couple steps out and see if they're going to yield. You don't keep going in front of the car.
Right.
Or, you know, you take a couple steps out, they don't
Yeah.
yield, they get a ticket.
Yep.
But with that said, it's, you know, because we don't have the type of pedestrian traffic in Florida like we do in some other states. California is very pleasant, the temperature, so they get a lot more foot traffic.
Right.
Or the urban cores like downtown Orlando, you get a lot more foot traffic. Brevard County, wide open, you know, pedal
Yep.
to the metal.
Yep.
And then you have to react to pedestrians in areas where you never see them before. You know, that's a problem for both the pedestrian and the driver, because you just don't have that much interaction.
Right.
Once again, I take the responsibility on myself. So education to me is pretty easy. Stop, look, and listen.
Right.
And then for the driver, that on the red, you always look at the direction where
Make eye
traffic is
contact.
coming, and
Yep.
you got clear, you start turning, all of a sudden there's a pedestrian there.
Yep.
So there's a movement, don't look left, or, you know, look both ways before you proceed. So there's a lot of education. What I see up there is all engineering. And that's fine, but if you're not paying attention, yeah, now that's better, that's education
Yep.
and then helping. But engineering, you can only do so much.
Correct.
And those of us that can read the sign, we're paying attention anyway. And we're probably going to see the pedestrian and, you know, not have any kind of impact. If we're busy, we're not going to see the signs, so the signs don't do much good. So I'm going to once again emphasize education, number one, safe crossing areas, number two, and, you know, changing drivers' habits. They've been doing it for years and years. That's pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
So once again, stop, look, and listen. And that's all my suggestions, and
Absolutely.
thank you.
Yep.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, Eric?
Yeah, just one other quick comment. I think another issue, unfortunately, is the pedestrian fear kind of thing that kind of kicks in. So I'm familiar with that Stadium Parkway one by the courthouse, and often when I'm driving it, you see people who don't want to cross and then have the driver, you know, forced to stop.
Right.
So you'll just kind of be creeping along slow, and then finally you might exchange some eye contact, and then the person is like waving you through.
Yep.
And you get in a point where you see like 4 or 5 cars going through when one of them probably should have stopped. So I'm not certain there's an easy answer to that, but I think, you know, I don't really want to cross a street like that if I think people have a chance of hitting me. So,
Yep.
so that's a tricky situation.
It is. We find a lot of people, especially like older folks, they're like, well, I'm just going to wait for everybody to go, which is totally understandable. Like, I get it. But it also reinforces the ideas for drivers that are like, oh, well, I have the right of way, so I'm going to keep going. But they don't. So.
We often hear about driving defensively, but if you're a pedestrian and a bicyclist, you have to be defensive. You have to make eye contact with the people at the intersection. I know, you know, I'm a runner and a cyclist, and I wouldn't be here if I wasn't acting defensively when I'm out there. You absolutely, Pete's spot on. You have to pay attention. And I know Devin had a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Eric, I was going to mention to you, you said you're familiar with the one out at Vieira. And
Yep.
also first, Kenzie, thank you for partnering with Brevard County Public Works and Traffic Operations. We have implemented a high emphasis one out there. If you go back to that other screen, we have everything except for the RFB
Yep.
out there. And my window of my office looks out on that crosswalk. So I see it every day.
Yeah.
And a lot of times why people don't want to stop is because they get rear-ended.
Yeah,
person
very
I
high
know
speed,
don't
even
stop.
though, yeah, it's 30
Yep.
miles per hour. People speed.
Yeah. And Vincent, to add to what you were saying about people turning right on red or even turning right on a green light, we put signs up there when we can saying vehicles yield to pedestrians in the crosswalk.
Yeah.
That does help too, along with what she said about making no right turns on red. But no right turns on red also hurts the capacity of the intersection as well.
I know there's a lighted one of those signs right now on Sarno Boulevard and Wickham Road, and it's very visible.
Yeah,
I
they're
really
blank-
appreciate that one being
Blank
there.
out signs, yes. We have it at Post and Wickham as well.
But the other thing is, turn on red is you're supposed to treat it as a stop sign.
Correct.
You don't just, you know,
Correct.
turn. You're supposed to stop first, look each way, then turn. And that very rarely happens.
Okay, anything else for Kenzie? Great information. Thank you, Kenzie.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to have an update on the Sebastian Bridge.
Wow. Actually, Zero Beach.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. My name is Binod Busnet. I'm with Florida Department of Transportation District 4. So I want to thank Space Coast TPO and the Technical and Citizen Advisory Committee for this opportunity to present this project here. The District 4 is, Indian River County and south all the way to Broward County, so we don't get to come here and speak with you. But a couple of years ago, we came here to talk to you about this project when we were doing the PD&E study for this project. We were in the process of getting the, our preferred alternative. Now we are in the design phase, and so we wanted to kind of meet with you again, talk through the design process that we have, all the design that we have here that we want to present to you. Along with me is Ian Biahaba. He's with Trans Systems, our consulting firm. He's the project manager. So in this presentation, we are also going to talk about the RRR project that we are going to do in Indian River County on A1A, but that will not be your interest. I think it's because it's in Indian River County. So basically, most of our presentation is going to be on the bridge replacement project that we're going to do. So like I said, my name is Binod Basnet. Ian Biaba is here. Ann Broadwell, who could not be here, she's our environmental manager. Overall schedule, we completed our PD&E study last year, May of 2023. We are going to conduct a public meeting to present this project to the public on July 17, 2024 in Sebastian Community Center. We have sent out the flyers to the public that's within 3 miles of the bridge. And also we have also sent the flyer notification to Space Coast TPO. We hope that it will be posted on their website and also to the local agency around the project area. We are about to start our right-of-way acquisition process. There are some right-of-way needed for this project from the state park, not from the private property, but rather from the state park and also from the Sebastian Inlet District. Our design is going to be completed in summer of 2025. A year from now is when our design is going to complete, and we anticipate start of the construction in early 2026. And our construction, we anticipating our construction to be around 4 years, 3.5 or 4 years, because we are phasing the construction. We wanted to keep the bridge open while we replace the bridge. So because of that, it takes a little bit longer to replace the bridge. So with that, I'm gonna let Ian talk about all the design.
Thank you, Vinod. Thank you for having us. We do appreciate it very much. Okay. The existing bridge was constructed in 1964, and the existing vertical clearance is 39 feet. The bridge length is 1,548 feet. We know a quarter mile is 1,320 feet, so it's over a quarter mile long. We do not have pedestrian or bicycle facilities on this bridge. It is part of the Indian River Lagoon National Scenic Byway. Let's look at the existing cross-section of the bridge, and in this photo, what you see in the foreground are shoulders approaching the bridge with guardrail on each side, and then you see it kind of narrow in right there in the foreground to what is a 34-foot wide bridge outside to outside. And that's pretty narrow, 12-foot lanes and hardly a shoulder, and we know that bicyclists like to travel on this bridge. This view is looking north, by the way. So this is just a rendering of the existing bridge. We carry about 3,300 cars a day, and it's projected to be 5,700 cars per day in the year 2049, with a truck percentage of about 6.3%. This is the proposed bridge typical section with two 12-foot lanes, 8-foot shoulders. Then you have a single slope barrier wall on each side to separate the vehicles from the shared use paths, which are 12-foot wide on each side for the length of the bridge. This is a cut of the existing versus proposed near the middle of the bridge, or the high part of the bridge. And what we see here is an existing bridge that's lower, a proposed bridge that's higher to have a higher vertical clearance to 51 feet. And what it also shows is, because of right-of-way constraints, we can't build all of the proposed bridge at once while maintaining traffic on the existing bridge. So what we have to do is we have to build the right side of the bridge first, keeping traffic on the existing bridge, and then we will put traffic on the new half of the bridge, and then take down the existing bridge and build the balance of the bridge. This is a photo of the existing conditions. So the existing bridge is 19 spans, 19. And the vertical clearance is 39 feet. So you see a lot of columns from the beginning and the ending of the bridge. Now, the next slide that I'm going to show is going to try to render the proposed bridge right over the top of it. And this is what the proposed bridge will look like versus the existing bridge. It generally looks like it's in the same place, it's a little bit wider, and it's a little bit taller. And the proposed bridge has 9 spans. So we go from 5 foundations in the water existing to 3 in the water with our proposed. And between 2 of them is where we have the channel and a new fender system as well. This view here is kind of looking southwest. You're on the north side looking south. The museum is there. We're not affecting the museum, and we're not affecting the restaurant. That's in Brevard County, which is in the foreground. We're going to maintain traffic across the inlet at all times. Sebastian Inlet, the Sebastian State Park needs to operate that way. They have to go across that bridge all day long to take care of their operations. And we also have the traveling public very interested in it always being traversable. The drainage improvements and repaving of the parking lots are a part of the project. And as there is existing today, we will reestablish the flight diverters that are on the top of the bridge over the water. The Sebastian Inlet District Access Road will be moved to the east side of A1A. The existing access is on the other side. And this is a condition that only is used during the operations of taking the sand and moving it out to the south. So we do not anticipate this opening being available during normal operations. So that will be closed off to the public to gain that access, both at the top and at the bottom. So this view is looking to the south, the ocean is on your left, and the new Sebastian Inlet District Access Road has some walled section, and then it comes down to grade. This is the rendered bridge with a rendered fender system, and it shows an 140-foot horizontal clearance, which matches existing, and the vertical clearance is 51 feet, which is 12 feet higher than existing. So we just added the numbers to this graphic that we saw before. It shows 8-foot shoulders, 12-foot shared use paths, and the 12-foot lanes. We have 3 water piers that I mentioned before. And so on 2 sides of the bridge, times 3, you're gonna have 6 lookouts. So the lookouts will come out from the 12-foot shared use path to allow people to step out of the way and look either to the ocean side, and if they're on the other side, they'll look to the intracoastal side. To minimize the footprint of the work, we are going to be implementing mechanically stabilized earth walls, MSE walls. This is just a shot over the museum, and it shows the new parking lot underneath, and it shows the walled section on the right side and the bridge on the left side. We're going to maintain traffic throughout construction. This shows the first phase, part of the first phase of construction. And it is getting ready to pick up a beam to go on the span. You will notice on the left side what looks like dirt on the left side. That is a ramp that's coming underneath the existing bridge to allow a crane to come up to the grade to then be on the trestle. So there's a trestle over the water. You see 2 cranes that are on the trestle. It takes 2 cranes to pick up these beams that will go up, okay? This is the second phase of construction where traffic is on the proposed half of the bridge. You can see in the lower left there a new pier with 2 columns coming up, and a bridge is only on half of it. And there we're lifting up the beams to go on to the other side of the bridge, or the left side. You can also see on the right another ramp that was reconstructed to take the cranes from one side to the other and then come up onto the trestle. So the trestles will be 2 on one side during the first phase and 2 on the other side during the next phase. 6.5 miles of the project is south of the bridge project, and that is to widen the shoulders to 7-foot shoulder pavement, 8 foot wide, and we'll mill and resurface State Road A1A, and the existing sidewalk is to remain on the left side. Project schedule and cost. Binod went over some of the details of the letting, when we anticipate construction to start, and when we anticipate construction to end, in sometime in 2030. And we sent our cost estimate to the Space Coast TPO a couple of weeks ago to be implemented. The cost has been updated. The current cost is $103 million for both projects, and the bridge project itself is $92 million in this current estimate. We do appreciate the opportunity. There is a website available for anybody to go on to and enter their information to obtain updates as well. Binod's information is available here, and we'll open it up to any questions.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, just two questions. I know the PD&E preceded this. What was the reason going from a 39-foot bridge to higher, but not to 65, which I think is for navigational purposes? And I know nothing about this inlet for navigation. And then a separate question is there a need for pedestrian access on both sides of the road, given the rural location of this project? Is there sidewalks on both sides of the road here? Those are my two questions. Sorry.
Which one do you want first?
You pick.
Okay.
Bridge height and sidewalks.
All right, bridge height and a sidewalk. I'm going to let Binod do the bridge height because he was very much involved with that during the PD&E. When it comes to the pedestrian features, on the south side of the bridge in Indian River County, there is a parking lot that's beachside to the south.
Got it.
And what we are doing is we're making a continuous connection to come up and over the bridge with that connection. It also benefits people in that parking lot to walk north and then turn left into the south entrance of the park and then go in that way, okay? Which is, there will be a crosswalk, okay? All right? So we will have continuous north-south shared use paths that go over the bridge. And then when we get down on the north side in Brevard County, the east side is going to end at the north entrance. So on the east side, we will have that shared use path that goes all the way to the north entrance, and then we will have a crosswalk to go towards the north entrance. And then the left side, or the west side, is continuous in line with the East Coast Greenway that is desired.
Okay, thank you.
So during our PD&E study, we coordinated with the U.S. Coast Guard regarding the vertical clearance. And as you know, currently it's 39 feet, right? So as part of our coordination, we did, a navigation analysis. We looked at all the boats that are used in there. And also, we sent out mail to the marinas nearby. And the constraint that we have and why we went to 51, right, is that we talked about north and south access point to the park. So that was our constraint point where we would not raise the elevation of that access point over there, because that was going to have a lot of environmental impacts to the park, and park being a Section 4F property. So we stayed at the elevation of that and then went 5%. So when we went there, we came to that 51 feet, and that is what we coordinated with this Coast Guard, and Coast Guard approved that elevation. Thanks.
Pete?
When I was looking at your pictures, I noticed the bicyclist on the shoulder. And did you ever consider using a low-profile barrier wall across that bridge? A low-profile barrier wall, if a car was to hit that bicyclist, would give the bicyclist rider a better chance of at least saving their legs, because with a low-profile barrier wall, they'd have more room to get over it, and it would still serve the same function of keeping good traffic separation.
So I feel like I know you. Tell me your name.
Pete Pettick.
Pete, very nice to meet you. I'm Ian, And there's a lot of things that go into an evaluation associated with a bridge of this type over the intracoastal. And through the PD&E process, they went through and they looked at a bunch of bridge typical sections, okay? And I think the main feature of this bridge typical section associated with people who are not comfortable with cars are 12-foot wide shared use path on a bridge that's over 1,500 feet long. With regard to a bridge of this type, if we had no shared use paths, 8 foot is the standard shoulder width for a bridge of this length and of this traffic volume and of this speed. So it's a standard shoulder width, which is wide enough to accommodate bicycle facilities. With regard to the safety feature, we have single slope concrete barrier wall, which is 36 inches high. And that's on the right side of a bicyclist that's going. Now, I'm not a professional bicyclist, but I would say that if I had a bicycle and something happened and I fell and I hit the low profile barrier wall and went into the road, that would be a concern for the bicyclist having the accident more likely than a car coming over and hitting them. Not an expert on that at all. The considerations for safety that keep vehicles from getting into pedestrians or the vulnerable users is the 36-inch high single slope concrete barrier wall, which, by the way, you know that it's about 3,300 feet, 3,300 feet from the south entrance to the park to the north entrance to the park. And I mentioned that we're going to have the barrier walls. We're going to have a walled section as well. So the length of section that has that feature is 3,300 feet, and it spans the whole way. So today, people will be able to go over into that area in the shared use path, and they will have a barrier wall between them and the traffic for 3,300 feet, essentially the entire distance between the south entrance to the park and the north entrance to the park. Now, with regard to, can I have low profile barrier wall on a bridge? A lot of people would say, oh, well, that's kind of like an urban condition, right? And this is not an urban roadway. And so our balance of having a rural highway, a rural roadway, our considerations that we've worked with the department is that we're going to post this. Today it's posted at 50 and 45 in this area. We're posting the entire project at 45. So there's nothing that can cover everything. I hope I answered your question in some way.
No, you really didn't.
Okay.
You danced around it, because I see miles and miles and miles of low-profile barrier wall on all the interstates, on all the major FDOT roads that are under construction. They're safe and they work, and so you really didn't answer my question, but that doesn't matter. I'm going to move on. I have another question. Why aren't the cranes on barges like we typically see over navigable water, where you put a big Manitowoc on a barge and you can handle beams of this size? Here you're actually building a platform for the cranes to walk out, and I'm positive that's adding a lot of cost to the project. Is there any particular reason for that?
Yes, sir. It has to do with the current, and the currents that go through that inlet exceed 16 to 18 feet per second. And so a barge that would have to go into that area to carry the cranes would be subject to a lot of loads from those currents, and it would take many, many spuds to put it down to keep it in place. So it's more reasonable to have the trestle above the water elevation and just have the piles into the water.
Okay, because typically it's 4 spuds per barge.
Right.
Typically.
Right. And a typical barge with a certain length being subjected to that current would be a challenge. And I'm sorry I didn't understand your question on a low-profile barrier wall. A low-profile barrier wall, in my mind, the definition of low-profile barrier wall is
18 inches.
Right. I've never seen that on the interstate. It's prohibited on the interstate. It is not allowed above a certain speed, which I would have to look up. I believe it's not allowed above 40. I can't quote you on it. But as far as a permanent condition, we either do a full barrier wall or it's just a sidewalk on the side. So it's a unique condition that you've shared with me that I haven't perceived yet in a permanent condition.
Well, that's why I asked. It seems like times are changing. And I'm for one, wherever you allow bicycles, into traffic that the speed limit should be 35 because you stand your highest probability of survival. When you get to 45, your probability of survival goes down considerably, and at 55, it's nil. So, that was my reasoning, that it's going to be a lower speed bridge with the bicyclists in the travel lane. And typically that's nowadays below 45. 35 is a speed where your survival rate is pretty good. So I made that assumption. With that assumption, a low profile barrier wall for both the driver and the traveling public, it's more visible and just as safe because it's used everywhere, at least when items are under construction. It's low, 18 inches by 2 feet, and it works. It's a lot higher than a curb. And I envision a car creaming me, now I'm slammed against a barrier wall, or a car creaming me and I'm knocked over the barrier wall into the bridge railing. I'd rather be knocked into the bridge railing than into a piece of concrete 36 inches high, and therefore I asked the question. And you answered as best as you could, and I'll accept that, and I'm going to move on. And thank you for considering it.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Ginger?
I just want to thank you for a beautiful design. I'd like to thank FDOT District 4 for those beautiful 7-foot buffered bike lanes on A1A. I've enjoyed them immensely with my friends down in Wabasso. Can you bring up some of your skills up here? And as for buffered bike lane, as a road cyclist, I'm not interested in it. I don't want to hit it when I'm riding. So, no Pete.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you so much. As you know, anything north of that bridge is District 5, so
I know.
thank you.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Devin's got something.
Thank you, Cliff. It's a beautiful bridge. I love it. I actually worked with an individual who built the original one that came to work for Brevard County, worked with the DOT for 30 years, worked for Brevard County for 50 years. But I want to go back to what Pete mentioned in a previous item. From the Sebastian River Bridge all the way to Pineda Causeway, Brevard County maintains most of the sidewalk out on A1A. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Okay. We're going to move on to reports, and our first report is from the FDOT.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members.
Morning.
I'm Chuck Coppernell with the FDOT MPO Liaison for Space Coast TPO, and I'll be presenting the FDOT report. First, I have one quick update for a project, the milling and resurfacing of State Road 500, US 192 from Osceola County line to Brandywine Lane, received final acceptance on May 14th and is now complete. Next, I would like to discuss the 2055 Florida Transportation Plan and the planning process itself. The 2055 Florida Transportation Plan, FTP update, will be a comprehensive statewide blueprint guiding Florida's 30-year transportation future. The FTP's transportation policy lays on the foundation for investments in the FDOT's work program. Updated every 5 years, the plan will be developed through steering committee guidance, focus group support, and comprehensive community engagement, both partner and public. The plan update will be developed over the next 18 months, adopted by November 2025. Our goal is that the FTP will be a plan in which Florida communities can see themselves and our stakeholders can use to develop their transportation plans and strategies. The 2055 FTP will be guided by streamlined steering committees in collaboration with FDOT to provide input that will guide the development of goals, objectives, and policies that make up the plan, and will be one concise document supported by online resources such as story maps and dashboards. All documents and materials will be developed using plain language and concepts. The FTP is more than just a plan. It is a forum that aims to connect communities, policies, and programs across the state, and is a collaborative effort of state, regional, and local transportation partners in the public and private sectors. The plan will be developed through steering committee guidance, focus group support, and comprehensive community engagement. Now, Florida is a large state with many diverse communities. Every community is unique, and each of their contexts, transportation demands, and development patterns are different. Each region has different objectives to meet common transportation goals, and a one-size approach does not fit all. Florida is home to dense populated coastal communities, a couple of mega regions, as well as many thriving rural towns and smaller cities. We have divided Florida into 5 regions for development of the 2055 Florida Transportation Plan to better understand the needs of our diverse communities and tailor the characteristics and needs of each region. This also helps to provide framework at the local level so that we have better cohesion and strategies across municipalities and jurisdictional boundaries. As you can see, we have 3 phrases across the top of the screen: visioning, statewide goals and regional objectives, and implementation framework plan development. The FTP will have a statewide goals and regional objectives empowering our communities to develop local strategies with the FTP's network. This way, the local strategies will be able to fit within the fabric of each community's unique needs. Communities are at the center of everything FDOT does, and we will be holding multiple engagement opportunities throughout the FTP update, including statewide webinars and regional workshops throughout the state. FDOT has organized a steering committee with the key partners and stakeholders in collaboration with FDOT that will provide input to guide the development of the plan. 5 focus groups provide the forum for more targeted discussions on the statewide goals and regional objectives and provide input to the steering committee. The focus groups are organized around our 5 major topics, areas that align with FDOT's compass. These are safety, resilient infrastructure, economic development, supply chain, technology, and workforce development. Input on the goals, objectives, and policies that make up the plan is critical to achieving an implementable vision for our future transportation network. This slide shows the overall timeline, and as you can see, the planned timeline periods for the steering committee meetings, focus groups, public engagement opportunities, and the public comment opportunities from September to October of 2025, with the final adoption date of the plan set for November 2025. So we're asking everyone to help us develop the 2055 Florida Transportation Plan, and you can visit floridafdp.com to learn more about the plan and to find out how to get involved. You are encouraged to join a focus group, participate in a webinar, regional workshops, or simply provide your comments and feedbacks. On the table outside, I have a stack of cards that you can take with you that will help you to get access to the website. And on the website, is a way that you can join a focus group, make a comment, sign up for alerts, and to see what's new. And this card is also in the agenda packet as well. Focus group meetings can be attended in person at the FDOT Burns Building in Tallahassee, Florida, or virtually. And participants must sign up to join a focus group to receive the meeting invitation. So please, join us in helping build our transportation future together. And in closing of my presentation, I would just like to make an announcement of an upcoming event that Secretary Tyler will be present at the governing board meeting to give the FDOT update focused on Brevard County, as well as Laureen Bobo will be there to give the Central Florida Safety Strategic Plan presentation. So I just wanted to make note of that and make you aware. So if you have any questions on what I presented, or if you have a question on lane closures or anything in general, please see me after the meeting, but I'll also open the floor to questions or comments that you may have for me now.
Questions for Chuck?
Yeah, Greg.
Yeah, Chuck, I just wanted to pass on, I really like the 2055, but let's talk 2024. When I accepted this high-paying position, I didn't realize that I was going to be putting a bullseye on my back. So I just wanted to make a couple comments that I've learned about the road safety project for Clear Lake Road that runs from 520 up to Michigan Avenue. First, my own observation is that I really like the meandering lanes. We've heard several times today about the straight line speedways. But I'm getting a lot of pushback from everybody on everything. So I'm not, I attended at least one public hearing that seemed to be fairly well attended on that project, where your consultant actually came in with a whole street line map of exactly what they were doing and took comments. But I think people just like to bitch when it's right here in front of them. So I kind of listen and try and provide feedback where I can on what I've learned. But the one that stumped me just the other day was, why aren't there any shade trees? Well, on the way to the meeting today, I said, well, let me run the corridor. Well, I can now answer that question. There's a damn good reason why there's no shade trees planted on that road. There is a major FP&L transmission line that runs the whole length of that road, and them poles are probably 150 feet tall. So I wish I would have been well armed with that answer when I was asked that question. I get the response like, well, we've got all of this concrete out there, and we're going to get concrete poisoning, right? The one thing that I've learned here is in this room, there is a lot of expertise. Dissension and questioning is good. It makes us all think. But I do have one thing that I'm concerned about during that project. The road markings, you cannot even see them. And so we've gone from a straight line road to a nice meandering road in construction, but you don't know where your lane is. And so we see a lot of confusion out there on that. But other than that, I can tell you that I've watched that whole process now, been here for a couple of years, and I would hope that the road improvement transitions over to some of the property improvement, if you know what I mean. So pass on my thanks to the team and also everybody in this room.
Thank you, Mr. Stoll, for that comment. And about the road markings, I'll pass that on to Ops and see if they got a plan, or see what the answer is to that.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Anything else for Chuck? Go ahead, Bob.
Chuck, thank you for the presentation. One of the projects that you've been tracking in the report is the milling and resurfacing of the western portion of 528. I know the eastern portion is planning to come up in the next few years. We had a visioning meeting on that back in April of 2023 at the TPO offices. Just wondering if we could find out an update on, I think a lot of information was provided to the DOT staff during that, and I've not heard any update or seen any meetings, and that project will be coming up, I think, in 2025, 2026. Just wondered if you could follow up on that and get an update on where that section of that roadway might be.
Absolutely, Bob.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anything else for Chuck? Okay, Chuck, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Next up is Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Trails Advisory Committee update.
All right. The BPAC met on June 24th to review the list of project priorities as we reviewed today, as well as also they received a presentation from Brevard County Housing and Human Services. They recently completed a Sharps Trail project just off of US 1 up in the Sharps, Port St. John area. So they presented to the BPAC on that project. You do not have the minutes for the June meeting included in your agenda package just because of the timing of the meeting and when the agenda package needed to go out. So those will be included in your September agenda package, but you do have the April minutes, along with a North Merritt Island Pioneer Trail and Southern Brevard Trails Master Plan update newsletter, so you can see where those projects are currently at in development. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Anything for Sarah? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board.
Mr. Chair, no report. The TDLCB did meet on May 13th, and that is the discussion points in the package.
Perfect. Thank you, Georgiana. Public Engagement Report. Morning, Abby.
Sorry. Good morning. My name is Abby Hemingway. I'm the Public Information and Outreach Manager for the Space Coast TPO. And so before we talk about some upcoming things for later this summer, it's been a while since we've seen you, so we just want to update you on some of the great public engagement that we've been doing and also some things that have been happening for our organization. So you heard about the BFF program today. In May, they came out to Brevard County, as Kinsey had mentioned, and in that enforcement with Brevard County Sheriff's Office, they gave out 26 warnings and citations to drivers who didn't stop for that crossing there on Stadium Parkway at the Government Center. And this location recently received a new high visibility crosswalk striping and signage to increase the visibility for drivers and to encourage more people to stop. Our team, as you can see in the photos up here, had the opportunity to kind of watch the action live. And so we just want to thank Bike Walk Central Florida for their partnership and coming to various locations throughout our county to educate our road users. And then the next time you visit Fisk Boulevard, if you take a drive or a stroll or a ride down there, keep an eye out for some beautiful new artwork. There are new bike lane symbols in front of Gulfview Elementary right there in Rockledge. As part of Mobility Week last year, students were invited to put their art skills to the test with their creative takes on different bike lane symbols. And 3 students were recently celebrated with FDOT District 5 at the school. Our office was there as well. They received certificates of achievement, and best of all, they got to actually see their artwork come to life on the roadway, which is pretty cool. And then they also enjoyed a safety presentation from FDOT in their classrooms as well. And then to close out Bike Month, Shelby led a helmet fit certification course with the young professionals in transportation in Orlando. As certified helmet fitters, of course, now they'll be able to order free helmets and materials through the statewide Pedestrian and Bicycle Resource Center, which is a program offered through FDOT. Moving on to some of our wins for our organization and staff members. In May, the FDOT District 5 office held its inaugural Central Florida Safety Summit, bringing together over 50 partners from across District 5 to discuss the importance of Vision Zero. In addition to hearing from some really amazing speakers and learning more about the Central Florida Strategic Plan, the SCTPO played an active role in the event as we had our governing board alternate, Councilmember Don Willis, participate in the Safety Champions panel representing the city of Cape Canaveral. And then to really close out the excitement of that event, our organization took home the Outreach Award for our public engagement efforts. So a really great win for our entire organization. And then our staff recently had boots on the ground, literally. They conducted a field review for the North Merritt Island Pioneer Trail feasibility study. And with the help of our team from Kittleson Associates and Inwood Consulting, staff explored possible trail connections to extend the existing trail south to State Road 528 and north to Pine Island Conservation Area. This project is made possible through FDOT's Sunrails funding. And then last month, Georgiana talked transportation at Melbourne Regional Chamber's Business Advocacy meeting. She discussed some of our largest transportation priorities right now on the Space Coast, such as the widening of Ellis Road, the Cocoa Intermodal Station, and our new Transportation Management Center. And it was a really great group to engage with. So every summer, if you're new here, we do host a staff retreat for our organization. In the last few years, we've really tried to center it around transportation. It's not only just the time for reconnection for our staff members, but we really try to make it a learning experience in our field. So a few weeks ago, we had the incredible experience of journeying on Brightline from the Orlando International Airport station to West Palm Beach for our annual staff retreat. And it was a really great day of just connecting with each other, but really immersing ourselves in passenger rail as a mode choice. And so some of our biggest takeaways were, the firsthand experience gave us a new advocacy for our Cocoa Intermodal Station. If you haven't taken it yet, to take it and to see it in real life are two different things. And then we had a great time. We took it to go see our friends at the Palm Beach TPA, our sister organization there in West Palm Beach. And we had a peer exchange with them talking about crucial transportation solutions, best practices, and it really enriched our knowledge and sharpened our decision-making skills. And lastly, just reviewing the area development and the connections and the different mode choices that we're going to need in our area, I think really helped us to see what's going to work best for our local area here in Brevard. So it's a really great learning experience for our entire organization. But speaking of our passenger rail station, hopefully you saw this. We recently launched a Shape Your Station survey. We had it out there from June 10th to June 30th. And this was a survey where we wanted to gather really initial input on surrounding area development and general user experience feedback for our station that is slotted to be in Cocoa. So many of our partners shared this survey, including City of Cocoa, Eastern Florida State College Cocoa Campus, and the Office of Tourism. We also had the help of many of our local news agencies putting it out there, and we received 2,750 responses. And it doesn't seem like a lot for our county, but in the world of transportation, that's a high amount of survey responses. So we look forward on reporting back on those results to our committees and our governing board. We're really excited that obviously this is a topic that our citizens care about and want to have, a little bit of input on. All right, and then it was a busy few weeks for our staff. We hosted a 4-week series of public workshops where we worked together with our consultant HGR and of course Space Coast Area Transit was involved too, to focus on gathering input about the future of our transportation needs. We held a 4-week series of public workshops across the county. We had some really productive conversations about the different gaps and needs that we're going to see throughout Brevard in the next 25 years. I want to thank our committee members and our governing board members who were able to attend a few of those. During the workshops, attendees heard briefly from staff about our goals for our long-range plan, and then they learned more about the transportation planning process as well. Afterwards, they were really encouraged to visit our interactive learning stations, and so they were able to map their transportation needs. They played Transportation Tycoon, where they got to decide which money went on what projects. They also got to tackle some tough safety questions, and everyone really had a lot of enthusiasm. This was the first time, I think, in a long time that we really focused on the engagement activities. We wanted to hear from our citizens and talk with them more than them sitting and getting a presentation. So in total, we had 76 participants across Brevard in these workshops, and we're still engaging more online. We've replicated all of our activities that we did at these workshops within our on our website as well. So we're continually to promote that. So there's still time to get involved if you didn't have a chance to make it out. And then to close out, we have a lot of upcoming topics, traffic safety related topics coming up for the months of July and August. Of course, everyone's traveling right now for summer, so we are kind of hyper-focusing on things that you can do for safe summer travel. NHTSA is running a speeding enforcement campaign right now during the month of July, and then August really starts to focus on back-to-school safety and Child Safety Month. During back to school, we'll be partnering with our law enforcement agencies, community partners, Brevard Public Schools to really spread those safety messages. Traffic patterns will change, getting people used to different traffic flows again. And we also plan to attend a few back to school events to keep safety top of mind. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thanks, Abby. Any questions for Abby?
Yeah, Vincent.
Just a question on everybody's mind. Any idea when the Cocoa Station is going to open for Brightline?
Georgina?
Was there any word on that?
So Vincent,
Was there any word on when the station was going to open, the Brightline station?
Go ahead, Georgiana.
Yeah, Vincent, Georgiana here. So the City of Cocoa submitted the CRISI grant, which is the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure Grant, several weeks back. We anticipate hearing the outcome of that before the November election. We think that's how this will all play out, including the infra grant for Ellis Road. It will be a wonderful year if we can get an award for the Cocoa Brightline Station and the Ellis infra grant. I mean, Santa Claus will have come, and we will all be so happy. And you know, I think it is a really good possibility. They have a lot of money that they need to give away, and those are two extremely valuable projects. And so I think they're both excellent applications. There is a advocacy trip planned to DC with the City of Cocoa, and they have asked me to attend, and the port chair is going to be attending that as well. Because at the end of the day, advocating for the project or educating folks in Washington is going to be very, very important. So we're hopeful. How soon it's going to be built will depend on if we get the money. That's really what's going to drive the construction.
Well, I think it's a win-win for everyone, because being able from Space Coast area to go to Orlando and hop on a plane without having to go through parking, the nightmare of parking at Orlando Airport, or even in Miami, for instance. Miami gets extremely crowded in terms of parking your car, and also the expense as well. It will make just an incredible difference in the way things flow in this area, and alleviating traffic and all the other things that will benefit from that.
Well, we couldn't agree more.
Okay.
And you know, an intermodal station here in Brevard County has been on our radar for over a decade.
Right.
And so, you know, it was a market-driven decision, and so our time has come. Now we just have to be part of the solution from a funding perspective. I mean, you know, it comes from the local governments, and that's why there's more work to do to come up with all of the money.
Okay. Thank you for dragging this.
Anything else for Abby? Okay, thank you, Abby. Good job. And just want to say congratulations to you, Georgiana, all the staff, the recognition awards that you've received. And, you know, I think it's great that you did the staff trip, that retreat. You know, it's just really good to see all those positive things. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is the local government report. Are there any government representatives that would like to say anything today? If not, we can adjourn. Have a good day.
All right. No meeting in August. We'll see you in September.